Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. I'm your host, Sam Brown. As always, you can find me on Twitter at SamBrownCS. Love to talk Broncos with you guys. Got a few rumors to jump into on today's show. As per usual, we're talking Deshaun Watson, but a couple club options as well this offseason. The Denver's got some big decisions on to talk about on today's show. We'll start with the news that's kind of been floating around for the last couple days. Von Miller, is his future up in the air with the Denver Broncos? Dan Graziano kind of kick-started this whole talk, listed Von Miller as a potential cut candidate for the Broncos while he was kind of laying out their offseason plans, and said that the Broncos are likely to restructure his deal as a result. Now, later reports kind of stated that no decision has been made after rumors really circulated about Von Miller and whether the Broncos would allow him to walk in free agency. Now, he does have a $17.5 million club option for 2021, and the Broncos have a $22 million cap hit if they choose to accept that club option for Von Miller. Here were some of the tweets that kind of surfaced after Graziano's article, kind of refuting his reports on Von Miller and the Broncos and his club option. We'll start with Benjamin Albright with KOA on Tuesday morning. Said he just confirmed this with the team. He was quote tweeting a previous tweet from himself saying that, there's no speculation really about his contract decision. He said no decision has been made on Von Miller's option. No one has contacted Von's representatives or Von with any decision, because no decision has been made, and they would be the first to know. Team is still trying to work through all that. So obviously refuting Graziano right there. And then Troy Rank, anchor at Denver 7, later that morning kind of confirmed that, saying, I know there's been predictions today about Von Miller's future. Talking to multiple sources, nothing has been determined regarding Von as the team works through contractual decisions. He is due a $7 million bonus in mid-March, so something will be decided by then. Now that $7 million bonus is if the Broncos choose to accept the club option for Von Miller. That's $7 million guaranteed money. It's a tough decision for Denver to make, and one obviously that they're right to take their time with, because there's no doubt that Von Miller has been a huge part of the Broncos organization during his time here, arguably been the face of the defense for years now, honestly. You see the stats right there. An average of a tackle for loss per game, 106 sacks, the Broncos' all-time leading sack leader, obviously, and 26 forced fumbles in 135 career games. He's been a huge part of the Broncos' defense and one of the best defensive players of this generation. There's no doubt about it. But we know that he's coming off that torn ankle tendon. We know he's getting up there in age, the wrong side of 30, and $22 million is simply too much for Denver to take on for a player of Von Miller's stature. I think it's worth restructuring. That's something I've talked about on past episodes, trying to talk to Von Miller and saying, hey, maybe can we spread this $22 million out over the next 2 years or maybe 3 years, give you about $8 to $10 million per year. I think that's something that needs to be discussed. I don't think the Broncos should go in and accept Von Miller's club option. I think that you at least have to attempt to restructure it. My only question is whether Von Miller would be open to that, or whether he decides, hey, maybe I'm going to get more money elsewhere. Maybe a team with a better chance of getting me another Super Bowl ring is going to throw some money my way, and you never know what could happen. But a really tricky line to navigate for the Broncos this season. And I'll kind of start this story or this show with a pinned comment for you guys, question down below. You have to choose one here, because I think there are options in between, but there seems to be two very polar opposites in the fan base. Some people say, hey, don't bring him back. They only see the financial side, don't bring him back. And some people say, he means so much to this team and this organization, and he's been such a mentor. So if you had to choose one, bring him back at $17.5 million or let Von Miller walk. You can type B for bring back, type W for let him walk. This is going to be the pinned comment, like I said, below the video. If you get hit with the ad break, it's the perfect chance to scroll down, get your votes in. I want to know how you feel about this situation. Now, another part of this club option kind of story is Kareem Jackson, because these reports also have surfaced about whether Kareem Jackson will have his club option accepted or declined for the 2021 season. Denver has reportedly not contacted his reps either. They have a $10 million club option on him. I think it's an $11.5 million cap hit for Denver in 2021, I believe is the correct number, so don't quote me on that. Now, Denver has until the end of the league year on March 17th to decide on both Kareem Jackson and Von Miller. And we'll go to this tweet from Mike Kliss, who kind of breaks down that this whole situation, saying per sources, George Paton has yet to reach out to reps of Von Miller or Kareem Jackson to discuss their team options. Miller has that $7 million in guarantee, Kareem Jackson $1.5 million. This indicates Paton has yet to make a final determination on multiple ways he can go regarding these players' options. And again, this is kind of the same thing that we've seen with Von Miller. They're kind of unsure where they're going to go. It's a huge financial decision to devote essentially $30+ million to Von Miller and Kareem Jackson. And in all likelihood, I think the chances that they accept Kareem Jackson's decision or his club option are probably less than Von Miller's. I know he's been a great player in his time at Denver, over 90 tackles this past season, 14 pass breakups, and 3 interceptions in 2 seasons in Denver, but you're also looking at the money that you're going to have to give up for Justin Simmons. That's the other part of your defense, and in my opinion, and most people's opinion, the more important part. Like I've said, that's about $30 million that you'd wind up committing to the safety position. I'm not sure whether that's a risk that Denver should be taking. Now, we're going to be keeping you updated throughout the offseason on their free agent decisions, the latest news and rumors that come up, videos just like this, plus so much more. So if you're enjoying this video, we might just be the channel for you. Hit that big red button and subscribe to the Broncos Breakdown. We're getting close to 2,000 subs. I think we could get there some point next week, but it starts with you. So you see that link below where you hit that big red button below this video, youtube.com/Broncos TV. Join the channel. Let's keep the movement going. All right, the next story on today's show, Deshaun Watson. We got to talk about him at some point, but is Steve Atwater kind of iffy on a trade? Hall of Famer, Broncos legend, you guys know him well, but he voiced concerns about giving up too many draft assets to acquire Deshaun Watson. Now, it's been well reported over the last couple weeks. The Texans want at least several first-round picks and a couple defensive starters in return, young defensive starters. But Watson has reportedly been intrigued by a trade to Denver. We talked about it on our last rumors video. The Broncos are on his short list of teams, reportedly, according to Jeremy Fowler, that he's interested by. So I'll pull up the tweet here, or the quote here from Steve Atwater. This was on Broncos Country Tonight, nightly radio show on KOA, the Broncos flagship station. Said, quote, "If he's legitimately interested in coming here, you got to explore it, but I don't want to give up the farm for anybody. Football is not like basketball where you can get a superstar and he can take you far. We still need to add some pieces to the puzzle, so we can't give up that much. If it's going to cost 2-3 first-rounders, I'm out. I get where he's coming from, and he also kind of addresses the fact of the Kareem Jackson situation, Von Miller, Justin Simmons, all those financial investments Denver might have to make. And this quote kind of comes off an earlier take from Atwater when the Watson trade rumors first came up, where he didn't want a Watson trade, kind of jumps back on it now that he knows that Watson's interested in Denver, but my point remains the same. I mean, were you hoping to fleece Houston? I mean, we saw what Matthew Stafford went for, 2 first-round picks and Jared Goff plus another third-round pick. Watson's going to be much more than that. I've said it time and time again. There hasn't been a player of his stature, of his age, available in a trade market. If you want to name one in the comments section, please, I'd love to see it, but I don't think we've seen it. Watson led the league in passing yards last year with a shoddy group of receivers after Houston traded DeAndre Hopkins. He's been in a mess of an organization over the last couple years, and he's still dominating on the field. He's only 25 years old, hasn't even hit his prime yet, and a solid cap hit for next year. With a sizable cap hit later on, but that's what you're going to get, and it's honestly a bargain for a player of his stature. I get what he's trying to say here because it is significant draft assets that you're compromising over the next couple years, but when you think about a quarterback like Watson, who, if you have the right situation, could be here potentially for the next 10 as a part of the Broncos, that's a gamble I'm willing to take. I'll ask you this question right now. Would you give up 3 firsts for Watson? Why for yes and for no? I think you have to, and I know the Texans are a team that you think you could go in and kind of give them a softball offer, because it seems like they'd be willing to do just about anything right now if they're willing to trade some of their stars. They say they don't want to trade Watson, but I don't buy it for a minute. Neither does anybody. 3 firsts is a steep price to ask, but I think it's worth it if you're getting Deshaun Watson. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Why for yes and for no? We'll wrap up today's Broncos Breakdown, shifting from one star who could be coming to Denver to another potential star in the making in Denver. That's Malik Reed, who said on a recent podcast he's hoping to get at least double-digit sacks next season. He had 8 in 2020. The former undrafted free agent has continued to grow in Denver since being drafted out of Nevada in 2019. To be honest, it wouldn't be a shock, especially if Von Miller isn't back. We talked about it earlier, and we'll dive into that scenario later here in a sec. But it wouldn't be surprising. Malik Reed has continued to grow, like I said, continues to take the steps, really grew as a pass rusher in 2020 and showed off his chops. And you see the numbers on your screen here in a little bit. But let's jump into the Malik Reed quote first. He said, this was on the Locked On Broncos podcast with Cody Rourke, Pro Football Network. A great listen. I've given it a listen recently, and some great content. Said you said 8 sacks this year, or this year it'd be great to set the bar to double digits. More tackles, more TFLs, quarterback hits. Just keep setting that bar high and watch God work. You have to believe in yourself and believe in what you do out there, and that you're able to accomplish those goals. And listen, like I said, it wouldn't be out of the realm of imagination. I mean, Malik Reed has shown a significant jump from year 1 to year 2, nearly doubled his tackle total, tripled his TFLs, quadrupled his sack total. This is a guy that has continued to grow in his time at Denver. I've said it time and time again. He's different than Von Miller at 6'2" and 235 pounds, but he's quick and he has the nose for the ball. I say let Malik Reed eat next season. Now, if Von Miller is back, I think you can find a role for him as a designated pass rusher. Von and Bradley Chubb are much better in the run game, and I think Reed can still find some more consistency there. But put him in a role on third downs where he can get after the quarterback, on second downs, on pass coverage plays, but also mix him in to try and create some flexibility and some mixed looks for the defense. But if Von Miller isn't back in 2021, that means that's going to be a bigger role for Malik Reed. I think he could be ready, I think I need to see more of him making an impact on a week-by-week basis. But you've seen this guy flash, and the great players show the flashes week by week. So we'll see if Malik Reed can continue to take that next step in 2021. I'll wrap up the show with this question for you guys. Fill in the blank for me. How many sacks for Malik Reed in 2021? Regardless of whether Von Miller is back or not, I think it's a tough one. I'll say 10 right on the nose. I think he gets double-digit sacks, will make an impact in the pass game. He's only continued to grow in Vic Fangio's system, so would love to see him get double-digit sacks in 2021. That's going to do it for today's show. Be sure to follow me, like I said, Sam Brown CS on Twitter. Got a mailbag video coming out later this week, so stick around for that.